Today, we've got a really cool story for you, a real-world experiment about what happens when you bring AI right into the middle of a ninth grade English class. And it all really comes down to this one single question. Can a piece of software, a chatbot, actually teach us how to master the very human art of dialogue? Well, let's dive in and see what they found out. So first, we've got to understand the problem this teacher was even trying to solve. And it's a classic one in education. How in the world do you pull off a truly great classroom discussion, a Socratic seminar? Now, if you're not familiar, a Socratic seminar isn't a debate. Not at all. It's more of a collaborative conversation. The goal isn't for one person to win, it's for the whole group to dig deeper into a text together, by questioning, really listening, and just thinking out loud. It's a powerful idea, for sure. But, there's the theory, and then there's the practice. In reality, there's often this huge gap. The idea is amazing, deep, active learning, but it takes a ton of prep time for the teacher, it's really hard to get every single student to jump in, and honestly, student anxiety can be a massive barrier. I mean, think about it. For a lot of students to really thrive in that environment, they need things that are just hard to give in a live, fast-paced discussion. They need a little more time to just think, maybe some help finding the right words, and maybe most of all, a safe space to just practice, to build up their confidence before speaking in front of everybody. And that is exactly where this teacher's pretty brilliant idea comes in. His name is Ramazan Dichla, and he decided to try something new, to give his students a totally different kind of practice partner. His idea was actually pretty simple, but really powerful. What if his students could rehearse for the big seminar, at home, on their own time, with a custom-built AI? And the text they were tackling? Shakespeare's classic, Romeo and Juliet. And getting the bot ready was surprisingly straightforward. First, he basically gave the AI the rulebook for a Socratic seminar. Then he fed it the source material, the play, a film version, the whole shebang. And finally, he wrote up some good, juicy questions to get the conversation started, focusing on the big social themes in the story. The teacher, Ramazan Digla, really hit the nail on the head with this quote. He said the AI wasn't just one thing. It was like it could wear 3 hats at once. It could explain a concept like a teacher, bounce ideas around like a classmate, and offer patient help like a tutor. Okay, so the AI is ready. The students use it to practice, then they come back to class for the real thing. What they figured out next, well, that's the most important part of this whole story. The single biggest thing the AI offered wasn't even academic. It was psychological. It created this totally judgment-free zone, a place where students could try out those kind of half-baked ideas, ask what they thought were silly questions, and just get their thoughts in order without worrying about what their friends would think. And the results were super clear. Kids came to class feeling way more confident. They had a much better grip on the play, they'd already thought up some really insightful questions, and they had a clear game plan for what they wanted to contribute. But here's the twist. Because being prepared was only half the battle. The students realized almost immediately that a live, messy, unpredictable conversation with other humans was a completely different animal than a neat and tidy chat with an AI. And this is where they learned the real lesson. It's this skill called intellectual flexibility. It's that critical ability to actually hear what someone else is saying and be willing to change or adapt your own thinking, right there on the spot. It's about building something together, not just defending your own little fortress of ideas. Yeah, this really breaks down the difference. Practicing with the AI, that was all about preparing your own points, kind of guessing what others might say. But the actual performance in class, that demanded responding to ideas you never saw coming, building on what someone just said, and actually growing the group's understanding together. So what does this all mean? What's the bigger picture here? This little classroom experiment actually tells us a lot about how AI could, and maybe should, be used in learning. The teacher's main takeaway was crystal clear, and I think it's so important. Artificial intelligence is not a shortcut for learning. This isn't about finding an easy way out of the hard work. Instead, the AI's real job was to be a support tool. It was there for practice, for reflecting, for getting prepared. You could almost think of it as an extension of the teacher, a way to give every single student some personalized coaching when they weren't in the classroom. So, the key idea, the one thing to really take away from this, is that the AI was never supposed to replace the classroom discussion. It wasn't the final destination. It was a bridge.
A bridge that helped every student walk from the quiet, safe space of their own independent thoughts over to the dynamic, messy, and way more valuable world of learning together with other people.
And that just leaves us with a final question, right? If AI can be a practice space for a classroom discussion, what else could it be a bridge for? Think about prepping for a job interview or a really tough conversation you need to have. What other complex human skills could we all get better at if we just had a safe place to practice first?